Welcome to this HP Learning Initiative for Entrepreneurs. The theme for today is going to be strategic planning, and this is part of a two-part series in which we're going to discuss issues of actual planning and issues of strategic management. My name is Greg Fisher. I'm an assistant professor of management and entrepreneurship at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. I come from a background of initially running and managing my own businesses and then going into academia, getting a PhD in strategy and entrepreneurship, and now I teach those subjects to students wanting to learn about these things. As I said earlier, today's session is going to focus primarily on strategic planning. That is the point in the process in which you make certain key decisions about what you're going to do within your business. So just to understand that the bigger overarching picture of strategic planning and strategic management, we've got a five-step process. And this five-step process really entails a fairly simple set of activities that any business owner can go through to position their business to be more effective and to achieve higher levels of profitability and sustainability over the long term. The first 2.5 steps of this process are focused on planning, and that will be the orientation for today's discussion. The second 2.5 processes, so midway through step number 3 and step number 4 and step number 5, really entail the management portion of what we're talking about, and that will be part 2 in a separate discussion. So just to understand the broad overarching process here, strategic planning and strategic management really involves, firstly, understanding what's going on. That's part of the analysis phase in which you try and understand a little bit more about your business and the environment in which it operates. You use that understanding and focus on step 2 to make certain key choices about what you're going to do in your business, how you're going to position it, and how you're going to make it successful in the future. Step number 3 is then really starting to figure out how you put the pieces of the business together. It's a bit like putting a jigsaw puzzle together to align them behind the choices that you've made. Step number 4 in this overarching process is to then set some targets and monitor your progress in relation to those targets. And step number 5 is really about then, once you get that information and feedback back from the monitoring of your progress in relation to your targets, adapting your business and changing your business where necessary to make it better, to make it more effective and more sustainable as one goes. So just to understand how that process breaks down in terms of today's discussion, we're focusing on step 1, and step 2 primarily for today's discussion, which are the core of the strategic planning elements, and then a follow-up discussion will talk about steps 3, 4, and 5. So let's begin with this notion of analysis. Analysis really is an opportunity to understand your business at a greater level of detail. You're a business in terms of what's going on outside your business, in the environment in which you operate, in the regional environment, in the industry environment, in the sort of consumer and the social environment, and to understand your business a little bit more internally about what you do well, what you don't do well. And so we really begin by asking ourselves 2 questions. What's happening externally of your business, and what's happening internally inside your business? And then how do the things that you've got internally, the resources and capabilities of your business, fit with what's happening externally? So in order to engage in this exercise, a really useful tool to utilize is something that we refer to as SWOT analysis. It's simple, it's efficient, almost anyone can understand it, so you can get any of your employees or managers in your business to participate in this fairly simple analysis exercise to help you in a structured way identify things that are both external and internal, and things that are both favorable and unfavorable. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. strengths and weaknesses really focus on internal elements of the business, and opportunities and threats focus on external elements of the business. So what we're doing when we engage in a SWOT analysis is you get you bring together the decision makers and people who understand the business into a room, and you ask them to brainstorm and list out. You can begin with all the strengths of the business. So internally inside our organization, what do we do really well? What do we do better than most other people? And try and list out as many of those activities and strengths and it might be brands and things that you've got that you're just exceptional at. And then you do the same with weaknesses. So maybe on a separate sheet of paper or on a separate whiteboard, you say, let's brainstorm the things we're not so good at, the things where we fall down compared to others, to bigger competitors or more established businesses or people who do things differently. And then you do the same for opportunities, but when you focus on opportunities, you really change your orientation slightly to say, let's think about the environment outside of our business and what opportunities are being created by that environment. So what changes are happening? Maybe it's politically, maybe it's economically, maybe it's socially in terms of how people are leading their lives. And then a fourth exercise is to brainstorm what are the threats, the things that are changing outside of our business that really create a potential for us to not be as strong or effective as we might want to be in the future. And the idea is to really get as much of that information down as possible, and then with your group of decision makers to identify what are your 3 primary strengths, your 3 main or most significant weaknesses inside the business, what are the 3 biggest opportunities that are emerging within the external environment, and what are the 3 biggest threats that have the potential to take down your business or to negatively impact your business in the external environment. And by identifying those things that are most significant inside your business and outside your business, you can begin to brainstorm some strategic options. And that's what the right-hand side of the slide, as you look at it, really allows you to do. So what we encourage you to do here is to brainstorm put together your strengths and opportunities, and to say, if we combine our 3 biggest strengths and our 3 most bold and significant opportunities, what are some of the things we might do in the future, strategic options that we might pursue in the future to really make the business great? And you put those down in the top left corner of that right-hand framework. And then you do the same for weaknesses and opportunities, and you do the same by combining strengths and threats. How can we use our strengths to mitigate threats, and what strategic options might we pursue to do that? And finally, you do the same for weaknesses and threats, the things that really probably have the potential to significantly impact your business. And that gives you a whole lot of strategic options or choices that you might make. And that concludes the sort of analysis phase. So by doing this, you should land up with certain strategic options that are enabling you to both embrace your strengths and opportunities and mitigate your weaknesses and potential threats. And so it's an opportunity to bring together ideas and insights from inside and outside the business, and to lay out a couple of strategic options for a particular business. So as a very, very quick example, if you were doing this for a restaurant in Kenya, just as an example that comes into my head, some strengths might be that you serve really, really authentic cuisine, that you've got a good a local following, people who come in regularly, and that your margins are fairly good. You're generating reasonable profits on everything that you sell. Some weaknesses may be that you maybe don't have great parking and access to the restaurant, that your waiting staff tend to have high turnover and are not sticking around very long, and that your systems just aren't really able to capture and help you understand the business better. Some opportunities in the external environment may be that there is a big convention coming to the town or city in which you operate in the near future, that there seem to be more and more people who are ordering takeout from your business, and therefore that seems to be something that's changing socially in the environment. People want fast food or takeout food. And maybe that the general economy of the environment in which you're operating is increasing. And then some threats may be that there's this continuous threat of terrorism. There might be a threat related to some kind of tourists no longer coming as a result of that. And so that just gives you an idea of some of the items that may fill some of these squares. And then it's about combining those to identify what your greatest options may be. So if we combine our strengths and our opportunities, so our strengths in terms of our authentic cuisine and strong following, and opportunities in terms of more takeouts, one strategic option might be to develop an online ordering system or a mobile application that allows people to order. And that just gives you a feel for the types of things you're going to want to list as strategic options in each of these areas. And then you use those options in order to make some critical choices. And really, choice and strategy are almost one and the same thing. So business strategy is about making critical choices about the business you're in and how you're going to be successful in that business. So choice, the step of choice really breaks down to three things. Number one, where should we play? Where are we going to operate? Where does our business exist? How will we win? How will we be more successful and more sustainable than other businesses? What are the things we're going to stand out and be known for? And then third sort of question you want to ask yourself under the choice umbrella is, what are we not going to do? So as a result of the key choices we make about where we're going to play and how we're going to win, what are the things that might be tempting for us to do, or we might have even done in the past that we're going to choose not to do? And one of the great intellectuals around strategy, Michael Porter from the Harvard Business School, says that that's the most important strategic question you can answer, because it helps you really define your business clearly by deciding what you're not going to do. And so in order to help you think about this a little bit more, question number one, really choice about where to play, may focus on what product markets are you going to operate in? What kind of offerings are you going to have? So if we go back to our Kenyan restaurants example, what type of cuisine are you going to serve? What sort of type of dishes are you going to be known for? Geographic markets could entail how big a geographic market do you want to serve? So are you really just serving a suburb? Are you serving a city? Are you serving a region? Are you serving a national market or even an international market? And defining how big or small your markets are going to be that you're going to play in. And then who are your focal customers? So in terms of a third key element of your where to play question is answering your where to play question is figuring out and naming your focal customers. The types of people you are going to be delivering a good or service to. And that helps you understand how broad or narrow you're going, what defines your business in terms of who it's serving, who it's not serving, and really gives you helps you get a much better understanding of who your potential customers may be. And then the question to ask is, how are we going to win? And that's really a very short way of saying, how are we going to offer something that's really, really valuable to the people we've chosen to serve, such that they will choose us over and above other alternatives? and really this boils down to, how is your business going to be different? How is it going to be known for something that's valuable to customers? And it might be that you're going to win for having the best customer service. It might be that you're going to win because you're cheaper than the other alternatives and you offer customers better value than the other alternatives. It might be that you're going to win because you've got the most slick and efficient technological solution and you've innovated to develop that. Different businesses win in different ways, but the key is to figure out what's the formula that you're going to use to be different such that you can win. And that's what we talk about when we talk about competitive advantage in business. And competitive advantage and strategy really become one and the same thing. So strategy is about making choices to give you some kind of competitive advantage, which is an advantage over others that are trying to do something similar or the same thing as you. And then finally, the question about what are you not going to do. That question forces you to make some trade-offs, to make some distinctions, and to make some difficult choices about customers you may not serve and markets you may not go into and activities you may not engage in. And the reason those choices are so important is because they allow you, by making those choices, it allows you and enables you to be really successful and to be known to be the best, or to be known to be one of the best in the areas you have chosen to play. So if you go back to our restaurant example, if the restaurant in question chooses to serve a variety of different cuisines, so they're going to serve traditional Kenyan cuisine, plus they're going to serve American hamburgers, plus they're going to serve Italian food, then they're probably not going to be really good at all three of those. They'll probably be pretty average at all three. But if they choose to serve just one of those and they say, we are not going to be an Italian restaurant, we're not going to serve American food, then by serving the traditional cuisine, they can focus on it and do it better than anyone else. And so ultimately, Michael Porter's quote again is, strategy is really about deciding what you're not going to do. And those two steps set you up to then begin to implement your strategy. So if you can do a strong analysis which enables you to make clear and effective choices, then you can be set up to begin to implement your strategy. And that's the strategic management part, which we will focus on in a separate section. But just to give as a summary and to begin to see how the two steps that we've discussed here and the three questions related to each step and some of the tools related to those steps come together into a coherent, whole and useful strategic management framework, this is a good way of looking at it as you look at the slide there and you observe step one is analysis, asking yourselves the questions, what's happening externally, what's happening internally, and how do our internal resources and capabilities fit with our external possibilities, and we can use a SWOT to do that. Step number two, where should we play? How should we win? What are we not going to do? And we can think really carefully about differentiation and trade-off to help us be effective at that. And in a follow-up session, we'll talk about alignment, monitoring, and adaptation. So I hope that's been useful. I hope that you've gotten something valuable from that. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to share this information with you. And most importantly, I hope that you go away and you use this information in your businesses such that you can be successful. And ultimately, one of the questions I get asked quite frequently is how regularly should we engage in this kind of strategic planning exercise of analyzing our business and making some choices. And that depends on your business and on how fast things are changing in the industry in which you operate. So at a minimum, I think you should be doing this once a year. At a maximum, I think you should be doing it probably once a quarter. So between 1 and 4 times a year, depending on how fast things are changing within your industry, it makes sense to engage in this kind of strategic planning exercise. I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much.